Hello everyone. Today we'll talk a little bit about how to create a new Node project. So far you have just run JavaScript files using Node directly, but today we'll try and create a Node project where we can save libraries and give it a name and all those kind of things. So let's get started. I have created a new project in WebStorm. That could be any IDE. And we'll open the terminal here. And if we click here, then we can see that I'm right now in the folder that this project is positioned at. So if I write pwd, then I should see that I'm in this folder here. So users, minimum use, documents, projects internal, web technology, Node.js structure. And I can also see that over here. Okay, so I am now in the right folder. So to create a new Node project, we write npm init and press enter. And then right now it'll ask a lot of different things. And normally I just press Control C, which means like just take the next part. But we can, if we want to, give it right like a name here, like Node.js structure, and then press enter, and it'll ask a lot of different things. So then we have to write Node and then a dash structure like this, I think. Yeah, and then we can write the version and so on. But Control C will just no, sorry, not Control C, just enter. So let's try and say Node.js structure, enter, and then here we can just press enter, description, enter, entry point, all of these things. Author. If you want to, you can write these things, but you don't have to. And we'll press enter one last time, and then we should see that when we ran this npm init and went through all the different things, that it created a new file for us called package.json. So this is a JSON file that describes the project that we have just created. For example, the name that we gave it, it took that and put in here. And of course, all the version, the description, what it does, it just adds it into this part of the JSON. Okay. So there are some things here that right now you don't really need to pay attention to, but it's like, so the name, there is a version, there is a description, and so on. So we have actually created a new Node project, Node.js project, just by adding this package.json file. Okay, so let's see what the next thing is here. So now let's try and look at installing a library into our Node.js project. So you can go to this website, npm.js, and this is called Node Package Manager. So here you can search for a package, and for example, the one that we will be using is called emoji something. Let me just see. It's called Node Emoji, this one. So you can write for some package if you're looking for something specifically, and then you can go and click into the page of the package, and then it'll kind of say, you know, how to install this library or package. That's kind of the same thing, and how to also run it and how to use it. Okay, so npm is kind of how we manage different packages in the Node community, you could say. So there's packages for like a lot of different things. If you want to web scrape, if you want to create a web server, if you want to work with emojis, if you want to, a lot of different things. There's a lot of packages. So this is kind of where you get those. So then it says here, if we go into the installation part, to install Node Emoji, you need Node.js, we have that, and npm, we also have that. Once you've set that up, just run npm install -save Node Emoji, in your project directory. Okay, when it says just run, that means run this command in the terminal. So let's go back to our project and paste this in. npm install save node emoji, and I'll talk about what that does in a second. But let's try and run it now. Then it says added 2 packages and audited 3 packages in 2 seconds. Okay, so what this command does is that it installs this library, and what it means when we does this -- save is that it actually adds it to our package.json. So if we go down here, then we see that it added a new key in our package.json, which is called dependencies, and then it says node emoji, and it has this version. Okay, so when we do save, it kind of saves the project in our Node.js project. Okay, and so we've run this, and it's just added kind of a key in our package.json file. But then what it has also done when we ran this command is that it has created a new folder called Node modules. In Node modules, this is where all of your library files will actually be saved. Okay, so here we have the node emoji, so that looks like this. You don't have to go into the node modules, and we never do go into the node modules, because every time we get a new project, this folder is automatically created, so we shouldn't change anything in node modules. This is just where the files for our library is kind of saved. Normally this node modules gets huge, like hundreds of megabytes. So also a good thing is that we should not add node modules to our GitHub repository, because it'll take up too much space. Yes, so this should not be added and committed and pushed to our GitHub repository. Okay, cool. Let's go back. So we have installed the Node.js, the Node emoji library, and here I've documented the same things. And one thing that I forgot to say is that it's also created this package-log.json, and this file is just saying exactly what versions of the libraries we've installed have we got, but don't really worry about the package-log file. Cool. So now we have install the library. Now we want to actually use the library. So let's first just create a new JavaScript file, and we can say console.log hello. And like we've seen before, we can just say node manger.js, and it'll kind of log this part out here. Okay. But what we want to do is we want to use the node emoji library. So we can go into here and kind of continue reading down. So now we've installed it. Now we want to use it. Then we can see that there's this kind of thing here, var emoji equals to require node emoji. Let's put that into here. So this will actually pull in the Node emoji library that we installed by using the -npm install -save and so on. And then we can try and use one of these ones, maybe the random one, emoji.random. So let's try and log out emoji.random, and it should just give us some random emoji. So let's see if that works. We go down here and we run npm main.js again. It says hello, and then we can see we get the clock emoji here. And if we ran it again, it should give us some other emoji. Okay, so that's installing and importing a Node.js library. Let's continue on here. So we can also create our own libraries. So let's try and do that. We create a new file and let's just call it our library.js. Okay. So we've created a new JavaScript file, and then what we write is module.exports, and then we can export something from this file. So that could, for example, just be Benjamin. So now we just export the string Benjamin. So if I wanted to use that in here, let's not do var, let's do const here. Then we can say const Benjamin string equals require again. Require takes a string, and then we want to say that it's this library here that we want to use. So our library, we can write .js, we don't have to. Okay, and then let's try and log that out. The Benjamin string. So here we are importing what was exported from this file, which was the string Benjamin. So let's see if it works. Cannot find module our library -js, and that's because we need to add this /. Okay, // means look from where this file is positioned and then look after our library.js. That means it's in the Node.js structure that it'll start looking for our library.js. Before, when we just write our library.js, it's actually referring to the very first folder on our computer. Okay, so that won't work because our library.js is positioned in this directory here. So // means in the same directory as the main.js. So let's try and run it again. And then we see here that we get the hello and we get the emoji, and then we get Benjamin from the other kind of library that we exported. And so right now it's kind of simple. I'm just exporting a string. But normally what we would do is we would maybe export like a function that can take A and B. And then we could maybe say like return A plus B. A plus B. So we are exporting a function that takes two parameters, A and B, and it just returns those two added together. So if we had to use it now in here, then this is not a string, this is actually a function. And then we call it with, like, for example, 10 and 20, and we see that it says, oh, this is the parameter A and the parameter B. And then we can see that it gives us 30 here. So in here we can export any JavaScript type. So we could export a array, we could export a object, we could export like a boolean, like anything. Okay, cool. So that's the part where we created our own library. And then I want to talk about two things more. One of them is Nodemon. And it's because when we are writing, let's change this back to a function. When we are kind of developing here and we are maybe logging some things out and we press save, and then every time we have to go down here, we have to write node space main.js. That can kind of take a little bit of time. So instead of writing node, we can write Nodemon main.js. What this does is that it listens for changes, and every time you change the file and save it, it'll just automatically run the script. So if now I didn't log out 2 like I do here, but logged out 3 and just save it, Now it ran the script again. If I change it to 5 and save it, it'll run the script. So it's kind of a shortcut, you know, like how we did in WebStorm when we had a index.html. We can click on the browser, and every time we change anything in the JavaScript, it just automatically updated the index page and all the JavaScript. It's the same thing. So now we don't have to write node space main.js every time. We just save and it runs it. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is a part of the package.json that we have not talked about. So if we go into this part here, then we see that there's a script's key here where we can add some other keys. So what this is used for is kind of a shortcut. So we can write here start, and then we can say Nodemon main.js. By the way, if you don't have Nodemon installed, maybe you write Nodemon and it gives you an error. Okay, then you should write this command, npm install -g Nodemon. That'll install the Nodemon on your computer, not in this project, because -d means like globally. So it'll install Nodemon and then you can use it. Okay. So we write start here, and then when we run the start command, it'll actually just run this command. So let's close this by writing Control-C. Yes, then it kind of finishes our Nodemon job, so now it's not listening anymore. But then instead of writing Nodemon space main.js, now I can write npm run. It means run one of these scripts, and then start. When I run this, it'll run this part, Nodemon main.js. Let's try. Okay. So if we change this to 7 and save it, then it'll update it to 7 here. Okay. So, and then you can maybe ask, like, why is this even here? Like, why do you have these scripts? Sometimes when we need to run our server, we need to do a lot of things. And maybe this is like positioned at processing ////. And maybe there's also like we can run more things in here. Then we write an and then there's like another thing here that runs. So sometimes starting our server, we need to write a lot of things. So here, instead of writing all these things and always figuring out, like we come into a new project and we don't know how to start it, we can just go into the project, look at the package.json and see what the start command is. And we run this, and so now of course it won't work, but if we do it by this, it runs this part. So sometimes when we get into a Node project, when we are developing, this is called dev maybe, or it could be called watch or something along those lines, but it's always the same. If it's called dev, then we just run npm run dev and it'll run this command. If it's called something else, just take a look at the package.json. Normally this is also documented, so you will say that, hey, if you want to run this project, just write npm run start or run dev or whatever. Okay, cool. So is that it? Yes, that is it. So we've talked a little bit about this Node.js project structure, where we have the package.json that describes the name and what kind of scripts or what shortcuts there is in this project. In the package.json, we also define what libraries are included in this project. Then we have the Node modules folder, where we have the files for the libraries that we installed. And then we've talked a little bit about require, which is importing a library. And then we talked about how you export some files. Okay, so I know there's a lot of things here, but it's just about kind of getting to try it a lot of times, and then you will eventually get a little bit more comfortable with how to do all of these things. Yes, thank you so much. Bye bye.